Right, in my last video I showed how I made and used a V-block steady tool to actually steady and support long bar when I'm parting it off on the lathe. I've completely remade the tool now, and I use this type of tool on both the Myford ML7 and the Chinese mini lathe when parting off long bar. I've now included bearings for the bar to run on, which is much better, and I have this brass adjustment collar for the height. And I'll just take this apart and show you how I've made it, and then I'll show a quick demonstration on the Myford ML7 of it in use again. Right, to make this tool, the first thing I got was the V-block made by Moore & Wright, Sheffield. I've got quite a few V-blocks that I've saved over the years. People think these are hardened tool steel, but they're not. They're just cast iron, which is great because they're easy to drill and tap. And that's the first thing I did, was in the centre on the bench drill I drilled and tapped for an 8mm threaded studding. So next I got my scribing marker tool, and I set the point so it's 6mm from the end face of the tool there, and then I carefully marked one end so it's 6mm in from this face here, and then from both sides exactly the same, 6mm in, and then centre punched the cross and drilled through with a 6mm drill. And obviously when you're drilling holes to size or to a certain diameter, it's best to drill with a smaller diameter drill first, which I did. So next I cut two pieces of 6mm studding, 86mm long, and I put a nylock lock nut on this end. Then a washer goes on that one, a bearing, and I'll give the sizes of the bearings later under the video. Another washer, that goes through the first hole. Put a washer on that side, and a bearing, another washer, and then the 6mm nylock lock nut. And I've purposely left the studding a little bit longer so I can actually hold on with a pair of pliers on the end here just to do that nut up. If you hold on the nut this end, then when you try and lock this nut in, it actually will screw the thread through, so you can't get it equal. So that's why I hold on with the pliers, and then just tighten that one down until it stops on the washer, and then just back it off 1/4 of a turn, and those bearings be nice and free to move. And the same with the other side, and that's what it looks like now. The next thing, I got a piece of 8mm studding, and this is 90mm long, or just under. I made this 45-degree collar up with the 8mm thread through that, and that one screws onto the studding first, and then screwed up from the underside. That angle should just meet the V-block, and you just have that so it's the full length of the thread going through the V-block but not actually protruding the other side. Then I've got a half width stainless steel nut there which locks onto that brass piece, and then when I tighten that one up, that'll make that studding solid in there and that won't move. So next I use another half width or narrow 8mm stainless steel nut, screw that one onto the studding and leave that one loose there. That's a lock nut for the actual adjustment on the height. I've got this piece of brass which I faced off nice and square both ends. It's 76mm in diameter and 13mm thick. You needn't have it that big, and you can use aluminium if you want. I did have PVC before, but because I've put a thread through this one now, I thought it'd be best in brass. I would have used aluminium if I had some that size, but I didn't. That one just screws onto the studding, and that is for actually adjusting the height on the ways. And then when it's set at a certain height, you lock down the top lock nut onto the brass, tighten it up, and it remains in its set position. And to finish the tool off, I have another piece of brass. This is 45mm in diameter and 4 or 5mm thick, drilled through for 8mm. That goes on the studding. Then a thick steel washer for more support, and then a nylock 8mm lock nut. And this one is used when the tool is set at centre height. You take the tool off of the lathe and adjust this one until it's very close. There's hardly any lift on it. And it just slides down nicely on the ways. You don't actually lock this one up and actually lock this tool down. It's just to take out the free movement and hold it in its position. And being made of brass or aluminium, it obviously won't mark the ways on the lathe. So that's what the tool looks like when it's finished. A bit of red paint to brighten it up again, and it's a super little tool. And I can use this one on the Chinese mini lathe as well, by making a smaller locking collar here, and obviously a smaller piece here, and maybe a shorter stud. So they're easy to make up and great things to use. And now I'll just give a quick demonstration on the Myford ML7 again, showing how I set it up, use it to part off the long bar. Right, so the new part off bar steady slides down onto the ways. The smaller disc goes under the ways, and you slide it down under the bar. You undo the lock nut at the top here on the brass, turn the brass clockwise to raise it up or anti-clockwise to go down. When you get it set perfectly, you lock the nut on the top, and then I just pull it out and adjust this nylock nut until it's a reasonable fit onto the ways, not too tight, just like that, so it can't lift. And then just push it down under the bar and it's ready to go. And if you're only machining one size of bar, like this 2-inch bar here, you can actually just leave it set up, pull it out, and when you come to do this size again, there's no readjustment. It's just basically sliding it under the bar again, and it's all set perfectly and ready to go. about it. So the steady works perfectly, and I'm very pleased with that tool.